Hello YouTube, my name is Adrienne and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a tag video and I'm going to be doing the totally didn't book tag. Basically the way this tag works is there is a list of questions and you find a book that you feel best fits this category. Obviously this is an opinions tag, so all of the opinions I give here are obviously my own opinion. You're welcome to disagree with me and that is perfectly fine. And just because I maybe didn't like a certain book and you did, doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, it just means it wasn't for me. So with that little disclaimer out there, let's go ahead and get into this video. The first one is totally didn't need a sequel. For this I have chosen Of Poseidon and Of Triton by Anna Banks. These two books were okay, they were kind of cheesy, but I really did enjoy these two. But I did not think that the third book of Neptune needed to be there. I felt like the first two books were a duology, they went well together and the story was over at the end. And Of Neptune didn't really need to be there. So it was a completely different story, it was the very short book, I just didn't think it was necessary. So I actually didn't even read it, and because I didn't really care for these two books anyway, I no longer have them, which is why there are these pictures here instead of the physical books. Next is totally didn't need more than one point of view. I really don't have a book for this. All of the books that I've read that are multiple point of views I really liked and I felt like I really appreciated having multiple point of views. I know a lot of people have held up Allegiant for this, but I never read Allegiant. I just never did, so I can't really use Allegiant as an example because I never read it. So yeah, I really don't have an answer for this. Up next is totally didn't need a cover change. I have talked about these before on this channel, but for this one I have chosen, of course, the Across the Universe trilogy. The first two books look gorgeous like this with the stars, and then the third one looks like this. And while it does make a little bit of sense because they were on Earth, or not on Earth, they were on a planet, and that was kind of the point with the greenery, it had to make sense. It still didn't feel necessary to make this one that much different than these two. However, you know, whatever. But I will say, I wish they would have at least kept the spines the same for the hardcovers so that they matched perfectly on the shelves. Next is totally didn't need a love triangle, and for that I chose 99 Days by Katie Contugo. I don't think that's how you say her name, sorry. I really did enjoy this book, but I really didn't feel like the love triangle that was introduced here was necessary. I mean, it started out as like a love triangle that was in the past, and then it cropped up again, and it just drove me a little bit nuts because I didn't think it was necessary. One of the guys she'd already dated and that was done with, and now he's back, and now he's back in this love triangle, and it was just so annoying because it didn't seem necessary, it didn't feel right, and it just seemed like it was a forced triangle to move the story along, and I think the book would have been just fine without that aspect. Next we have totally didn't need to be included in the series. For this one I chose The Crown by Kiera Cass. Now don't get me wrong, the Selection series is one of my favorite series out there, but I feel like The Crown wasn't necessary. Now that is continuing the story that happened in The Heir, but I feel like if you would have just combined these two and made it one standalone story, or it would have been, you know, a great story. So I feel like The Crown didn't necessarily need to be included as another book. You could have just combined The Heir and The Crown and made one long book, and it would have been just as good a story because The Crown is so short. Next is totally didn't need a cliffhanger. Now I had a hard time with this one because most times I really like cliffhangers in books, but I also had a hard time choosing which book to put here because the book I did end up choosing I really felt like also could have gone in the last category. So the book I chose is Crossed by Ali Condi. This book was very boring. It really didn't feel like it was necessary, but it also didn't need a cliffhanger at the end. It didn't add anything, it didn't contribute at all, it just wasn't necessary. The cliffhanger wasn't necessary, this book really wasn't necessary, you could have cut it out completely and you wouldn't have missed anything. Up next is totally didn't need just one point of view. So earlier we had the question, totally didn't need more than one point of view. This is the opposite. You wish you would have had multiple points of view in the book. And for this one I chose Blackmore by Julie Ann Donaldson. This book was so good and I loved it. but I would have also loved to have seen Henry's point of view of what was going on and his side of the story and what he was going through. I would have loved to have his side, but we just get Kate's, and Kate's side is great, and I love this story so much, but I feel like it could have been so much more interesting to have Henry's alongside it. Up next, we have Totally Didn't Need That Much Hype, and I no longer own the book for this category because once I finished it and I didn't care for it, I put it in my town's free little library. But that is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. This book wasn't necessarily bad, I just didn't like it. It just wasn't quite my style, and it definitely was overhyped. And I think that might have been why so many people didn't like it, was because we were expecting this big, great novel, and then it didn't hold up to those expectations. But yeah, this is the book I have for Didn't Need That Much Hype. Up next, we have Totally Didn't Need a Book Relative Reference. An example of this is fans of the Hunger Games would like Divergent. I feel like The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare didn't need a relative book reference. I feel like a lot of people compared this book to Twilight when it first came out, saying that if you like Twilight, you would like these. But it's nothing like Twilight. I don't know why people thought that. But this book stands alone so well that I don't think it really needed a relative book reference. But it is blurbed by Stephanie Meyer on the front, and I know that is kind of why a lot of people picked it up, so maybe that's why I had the reference. And the last question is Totally Didn't Need My Time. I also no longer have this book because I got rid of it as well after I read it, because it was not good, and that book is The Eternal Ones. I don't even know who this is by, and I don't feel like looking it up. I did not like this book. It was so bad. I had so many problems with this book. I can't even tell you all the things. It just wasn't good. I just couldn't stand it. It's the first book in a series. I'm absolutely not picking up the rest of the series. I can't. It was not worth my time at all. Alright guys, so that is all I have for this tag today. Thank you so much for watching. I post videos on Monday and Friday, so come back and check me out then. If you want to get notifications for when I post, click subscribe down below and I will pop up in your subscription feed. So with that, I hope you all have a lovely day. Goodbye!